Trump's goddamned lies. A pattern of deception, from economic fiction to reality-bending narratives. By Jimmy Presnell, July 11, 2026, 32,218, Jacksonville, FL. There's a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Donald Trump lies, constantly, compulsively, and deliberately. Not just small lies, not just exaggerations. Goddamned lies, the kind that rewrite reality, the kind that gaslight an entire nation, the kind that make you question what you saw with your own eyes. Here's a breakdown of some of the most egregious lies from his second term. The economic fiction. One of the most persistent claims involves a supposedly massive amount of investment in the U.S., with figures often given as $17 trillion, $18 trillion, or even $19.2 trillion. This isn't just a slight exaggeration, it's a number that doesn't hold up to any scrutiny. While the White House's own website might have shown a figure like $10.6 trillion, that number itself counted vague investment pledges, not actual money spent. A detailed review found it included things like bilateral trade and economic exchange that weren't direct investments in the U.S. Federal data on actual foreign direct investment told a much smaller story. The lie, I brought in $19 trillion in investment. The truth, the actual number was a fraction of that, and even the claimed figure was based on pledges, not actual investment. The inflation lie. Another common claim is that inflation was at record levels when he took office, or that he inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. The reality, when he took office in January 2025, the annual inflation rate was 3%. While its true inflation had been higher earlier in the Biden administration, peaking at 9.1% in June 2022, that was a 40-year high, not an all-time record. The all-time high of 23.7% was set in 1920. And here's the kicker: grocery prices have actually increased during his second term. The stolen election myth. The claim that the 2020 election was rigged or stolen from him remains a cornerstone of his public statements. Over 6 years later, there is still no evidence to support these claims. They have been rejected by courts, election officials, and his own former administration officials. A recent post of his even showed an AI-generated image of Joe Biden wearing a MAGA hat with the text, "I lost to Trump." A notable error given that Biden won the 2020 election. The pattern deflect from the actual outcome, create an alternative reality, repeat it until it becomes true for his supporters. Numbers that don't add up. A pattern of using mathematically impossible figures appears in other areas as well. For instance, he has claimed to be cutting prescription drug prices by 500%, 600%, 800%. A cut of more than 100% would be mathematically impossible. It would mean people would be paid to take their medications. This fixation on unrealistically large numbers extends to his claims about ending wars, where figures like 8 are often cited. But upon examination, the list includes diplomatic disputes that were never wars or conflicts that have continued. A particularly stark example is his claim that every one of those boats kills 25,000 Americans when referring to drug boats in the Caribbean. With total U.S. overdose deaths from all drugs in 2024 at about 82,000, this number is impossible to reconcile with reality. Reality-bending narratives. An approach to constructing alternative narratives has been noted, especially in the context of high-profile events. In 2 separate fatal shootings of protesters in Minneapolis, his administration immediately put out their own version of events that was contradicted by bystander video footage. Victim 1, the administration described her as having viciously ran over the ICE officer, but video analysis suggested she was trying to turn away. Victim 2, he was described as an assassin aiming to massacre law enforcement, but videos showed him approaching with a phone in his hand, not a gun. The strategy: put out a story early and repeat it, knowing that a significant portion of the public may not trust the evidence that contradicts it. Direct contradictions of simple facts. Some of the false claims are denials of things he has been recorded saying or doing. In one interview, after being reminded that grocery prices were actually up, he insisted they were down, a claim contradicted by inflation data. On another occasion, he stated, "I didn't say that," in response to a reporter accurately quoting a statement he had made just 5 days earlier about releasing footage. These direct contradictions of verifiable facts illustrate a pattern of denying things even when the evidence is clear. The pattern of deception. Category: the lie, the truth. Investment: $19 trillion in investment, based on pledges, not actual investment. Inflation: worst inflation in history, 0% when he took office. All-time high was 23.7% in 1920. Election: the 2020 election was rigged, no evidence, rejected by courts and officials. Drug prices: cutting prices by 500%, mathematically impossible. Denials: I didn't say that, recorded saying it days earlier. Why this matters? When a president lies, especially when they lie repeatedly, about everything, it's not just a political problem. It's a threat to democracy. When you can't trust the person in charge to tell the truth about anything, you can't make informed decisions. You can't hold them accountable. You can't have a functioning society. And when they create alternative realities, claiming black is white, up is down, and what you saw with your own eyes didn't happen, they're not just lying. They're gaslighting an entire nation. That's why we need to call them out. That's why we say, "You're a goddamned liar." Not because we're angry, but because it's the truth. What we can do: believe your own eyes, don't let anyone gaslight you. Call out the lies, say it plainly, that's a lie. Support truth tellers, journalists, whistleblowers, and honest politicians. Build alternatives, platforms like Megafish that aren't controlled by liars. Fish ready to build something real? I build dating sites, blogs, and web apps, Flask, SQLite, Ubuntu, Cloudflare, starting at $500. Backhand index pointing right PeopleStack, com/services. Slow and steady wins the race. Move an inch every day. Jimmy Prisnell. Left arrow back to Megafish. The Megafish Chronicle, connecting communities, one story at a time.